June 18, 1815. Waterloo, Belgium. Napoleon Bonaparte has assembled 73,000 battle-hardened veterans, men who rewrote the rules of warfare at Austerlitz, Borodino, and a dozen campaigns beyond. A finely tuned machine of infantry, cavalry, and artillery that has crushed every professional army in Europe. Standing between Napoleon and Brussels, a 16-man platoon of United States Navy SEALs from 2024. Not a tank, not an Apache. 16 men. Their orders: hold the ridge at Mont Saint-Jean for 48 hours. Wellington is delayed. Blucher got lost. Again. It's just the SEALs, a Belgian cow pasture, and history's greatest military mind walking straight toward them. Let's find out what happens. First, let's talk about what 16 Navy SEALs actually are, because calling them soldiers is like calling a Formula One car a vehicle. Technically accurate, deeply insufficient. A SEAL platoon is 2 officers and 14 enlisted operators. Every single one passed BUDS, a training program specifically designed to make people quit. Roughly 75 to 80% of candidates do. The ones who don't quit are the ones standing on this ridge. Each operator carries an M4A1 carbine with optics accurate to 500 meters. 2 men carry Mark 48 light machine guns capable of sustained suppressive fire that would make a 19th century artillery officer weep into his bicorn hat. The platoon sniper runs an Mk13 Mod 7 bolt-action rifle with an effective range of 1,300 meters. That's farther than Napoleon's best artillery could consistently hit a barn. They've also brought claymore mines, fragmentation grenades, C4 explosive charges, and enough ammunition for 48 hours of standard SEAL operations. Here's the catch. Standard SEAL operations mean short, violent raids, not 48 hours of holding ground against 73,000 men. Every hour they defend a fixed position burns ammunition at triple the rate their loadout was designed for. The math starts bad and gets worse every minute they're out here. Their night vision and thermal optics mean they own the dark completely. Their suppressed weapons won't be silent. A suppressed M4 still hits around 130 decibels, but they'll make it nearly impossible for Napoleon's men to locate the source of fire. In 1815, the concept of a gunshot that kills you from a kilometer away without making a sound you can trace is less military problem and more theological crisis. Now the opposition, 73,000 soldiers, Napoleon's professionals. The Imperial Guard alone, his elite shock force, is composed of men who had to survive 10 years of continuous campaigning just to qualify. 10 years. These aren't volunteers fresh out of boot camp. These are men who marched to Moscow and back, literally, and showed up for work the next day. The cavalry numbers 16,000 horsemen, the artillery, 246 guns, cannon crews who can load, aim, and fire 3 rounds per minute and hit targets at 800 meters with solid shot. By 1815 standards, that is cutting-edge precision, and commanding them is Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who looked at centuries of warfare and said, "Cute, here's how it actually works." He invented the core system. He weaponized speed and concentration. He won battles by being somewhere his enemy didn't expect, doing something his enemy didn't think was possible. 16 men holding a ridge is not a scenario that gives Napoleon nightmares. It's a Tuesday. The SEALs established their defensive position on the ridge at Mont Saint-Jean. Open ground to the north, natural choke points on both flanks, claymores placed in overlapping arcs across every primary approach route. The sniper digs in 400 meters behind the main position with sight lines across nearly a kilometer of open field. Napoleon's cavalry scouts arrive first. 200 hussars moving fast in a wide spread, their standard sweep when probing an unknown position. The sniper engages the lead rider at 1,100 meters. The hussar doesn't hear the shot. Neither do the men around him. He simply falls. Then another. Then a third. The hussars are professionals. They don't panic. They disperse, drop low, and pull back behind the nearest ridge in under 30 seconds without a single shouted order. Napoleon receives the scout report within the hour. Men are dying at the ridge from an invisible source at impossible range. The wounds are unlike anything his surgeons have treated. Small entry, catastrophic internal damage, no musket ball to extract. Napoleon doesn't waste time trying to understand the weapon. He focuses on what he can observe. The enemy holds the ridge. The enemy is few. The enemy kills at long range. He responds accordingly. He sends 4,000 infantry forward in dispersed formation. No dense columns. He learned at a dozen battles what happens when you pack men together against prepared positions. The infantry advances in loose groups using every fold in the terrain, moving steadily, not charging, walking. The SEALs open fire at 400 meters. M4s and Mark 48 machine guns tear into the advancing lines. Men fall. The French infantry doesn't stop. The men behind the ones who fall step around the bodies and keep walking. This is the moment most armies in history would break. Napoleon's doesn't. Then the artillery opens up. 246 guns begin ranging the ridge. The first salvos land wide, but Napoleon's gun crews are professionals, and they correct fast. Solid iron balls start walking toward the SEAL positions in tight patterns. Body armor doesn't stop a 12-pound cannonball. The SEALs shift to secondary positions, but now Napoleon's observers have spotted the movement. He's already adjusting his flanks. 1,000 cuirassiers begin swinging wide to the east. 1,500 light cavalry peel off to the west. The SEAL platoon leader picks this up on thermal optics. Hundreds of heat signatures moving through the valley below in 2 separate columns. The ridge is about to be bypassed entirely. He splits the platoon. 10 men hold the main position. 6 move east to intercept the heavy cavalry route. It's the right call with 16 men. It's also exactly what Napoleon wanted, a divided enemy. The 6-man element engages the cuirassiers mid-column, suppressed rifles, dropping men from positions the cavalry can't locate. For about 4 minutes, it's a one-sided turkey shoot. Then Napoleon's light cavalry from the west completes their sweep and appears behind the 6-man element, cutting the route back to the main position. 6 SEALs hold a defensive circle against 1,500 horsemen while 4,000 infantry close from the north. Napoleon isn't attacking, he's compressing. By nightfall, the SEALs have burned through 65% of their ammunition with 2 men wounded. Night vision lets them own the dark, dismantling every French probe. But Napoleon simply waits, rotating fresh regiments while his 16,000 wagon logistics train resupplies continuously. The SEALs cannot rotate, there are 16 of them. Every hour drains what cannot be replaced. By the second dawn, 38 hours in, all 6,000 Imperial Guard begin forming. Napoleon only commits them when he's certain of winning. He's certain now. The SEALs see it on thermal. A solid wall of heat signatures, 3 kilometers wide, beginning to move. Behind them, cavalry seals every exit route. Napoleon has spent 38 hours turning a ridge into a box, and now he's closing the lid. The SEALs fight until the rifle ammunition runs out. Every round aimed, every trigger pull deliberate. When the last M4 magazine drops empty, sidearms come out. When the pistols run dry, there are knives. 16 men who have never been trained to surrender don't start now. Napoleon takes the ridge, not because his army was braver, not because his weapons were better, because he refused to let 16 men dictate the terms of the fight. He bypassed their position, divided their force, used his artillery to make their ground untenable, exhausted their ammunition with patience, and delivered the final blow with the best soldiers he had. The SEALs held for 40 of the 48 hours. They inflicted over 600 casualties on the greatest army in 19th century Europe. They made Napoleon Bonaparte spend nearly 2 days solving a problem created by 16 people. Napoleon would have respected the SEALs. He respected every enemy who made him pay for something that should have been free. He just didn't lose to them.